Welcome back for another deep dive into all things media. This month, you guys have sent over a wild mix of industry news, some pretty juicy behind-the-scenes scoops, and a bunch of festival buzz.
Yeah, you weren't kidding. It's a lot to get through.
So much to unpack. Let's jump right in.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. I think a good place to start might be The Pitt, renewed for a second season.
Which is fantastic news.
Yeah. For the fans, at least.
Right.
But there is some drama going on off-screen as well, right? Michael Crichton's widow, she is suing, saying that it's basically a ripoff of ER.
Yeah.
And you flagged this for us, and I think it's particularly interesting because of, well, I mean, it's a big case.
Yeah.
But also because, well, can you explain kind of what's going on legally for people that aren't familiar with all the ins and outs of the case?
Sure. So Warner Bros. Discovery, they tried to get the lawsuit dismissed right away. And they use this thing called an anti-Cecil PP motion.
Okay.
And it's basically a way to prevent lawsuits that are designed to just silence free speech.
Interesting.
But the judge actually denied that motion, which means the court thinks there's enough evidence to suggest that, yeah, maybe the Pitt is derived from ER.
Huh.
So that's kind of a big deal.
So what does this mean for Warner Bros. Discovery? Are they, like, in trouble?
Well, I mean, now it means that the suit's going to trial.
Oh, okay.
So that could get very expensive for Warner Bros. Discovery. And depending on how it turns out, it could even impact how studios develop new shows going forward, you know? Like, will they be more cautious about potential copyright issues?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a situation that's worth keeping an eye on.
Okay, worth paying attention to. So let's hop across the pond.
Okay.
Let's go to the UK.
Okay.
You sent over this interview with the director of Unforgotten, where he was talking about filming this like really captivating confession scene, all in one take.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I've always been impressed by single take scenes, but this one in particular, it's like you can't turn away. It just made me think about just the sheer amount of just amazing television that's coming out of the UK right now.
It's true.
And you also sent over this piece by screenwriter Danny Brocklehurst.
Oh, yeah.
And he's arguing that British comedy has a particular flavor that shouldn't be watered down, even if it means not appealing to a global audience.
Yeah.
I mean, which is an interesting point, right?
Absolutely. And I think especially as we see platforms like Netflix leaning more and more towards just, mainstream content, I think it raises the question, is this a threat to that really distinct British humor?
Yeah.
Or could it actually be an opportunity for some of the UK's rivals to step in and kind of fill that very specific niche? It's definitely, I think, a dynamic worth following.
For sure. It reminds me a little bit of A24.
Oh, yeah.
They've been so successful, and they've been successful with a very particular approach to filmmaking. I mean, they kind of seem to be the opposite of this big studio system in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
Like they're really focused on building communities around these unique films that they produce, rather than just chasing the largest audience possible.
Yeah.
And you highlighted their mindset over demographic strategy. Can you unpack that a little bit for our listener?
Absolutely. So what's so interesting about A24 is that they really understand that just making a good film, that's not enough these days. It's about cultivating this really dedicated fan base that's going to connect with your content on this deeper level.
Yeah.
So they actually target these specific mindsets, like cinephiles who are really into artistic risks.
Okay.
Genre fans who are looking for something outside of the mainstream,
Yeah.
rather than just those really broad demographics. And, their success, is undeniable.
Totally.
And it kind of makes you wonder, could traditional studios learn a thing or two from their playbook?
Totally. Okay, speaking of shaking things up, you also sent over some research on generative filmmaking.
Oh, yeah.
Where AI is being used to actually make films. Now, this sounds like it could be really, really empowering for, a lot of independent filmmakers, but it also comes with, its own concerns.
It does. And this is something I thought, would be really interesting to you, given your own interest in independent cinema. So, on the one hand, this technology has the potential to really democratize filmmaking.
Okay.
Giving anyone with a story to tell the tools to actually create a film without needing, huge budgets or studio backing.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's also this risk of the market being flooded with all of this low effort AI generated content.
Yeah.
So then, will it be even harder for those truly artistic works to stand out?
Yeah.
It really is, I think, a double-edged sword.
Okay, this next story is a bit of a head scratcher. So Mr. Beast.
Uh-oh.
I know you're a big fan.
I am.
He lost millions of dollars on his Amazon Prime show, Beast Games.
I heard about this.
And here's the kicker.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the massive viewership.
Yeah. Right.
So how's that even possible? You highlighted this in your notes, so I know you've given this some thought.
Well, Mr. Beast, he's really known for his unconventional approach.
Yeah.
He often invests these huge sums of money into his content, but I think this case really shows that even just massive viewership doesn't guarantee financial success, especially on a platform like Amazon Prime.
Right.
So it raises some interesting questions, I think, about the creator economy.
Yeah.
I mean, is this just, classic Mr. Beast taking risks that don't always pay off? Or is it a sign that this whole model of like bigger is better, it isn't actually sustainable in the long run?
Yeah.
Especially for those creators who might not have his resources.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's do a really quick round of executive musical chairs here.
Okay, yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy, president of Lucasfilm. She is retiring, which is, that's huge news for the Star Wars universe.
Absolutely.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, it'll be really interesting to see who takes the helm and what direction they steer the franchise in, especially given the recent, I would say, mixed reaction to some of their projects.
Yeah, sure.
And on a totally different note, Leslie Siebert just became the first female president of a major talent agency.
Really?
Gersh.
Wow.
Which is, that's a really significant milestone for women in the industry.
Yeah.
I think it could potentially have a ripple effect on representation at that executive level. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, awesome. So festivals and markets.
All right.
You flagged a few interesting things happening around the world.
Yes.
Where should we start?
Well, Jennifer Fox, who directed The Tale.
Oh, yeah.
She has a new series called Ruth's Ghosts, premiering at Series Mania.
Oh, okay.
And it's a supernatural thriller. It's set in this near future New Orleans.
Okay.
Under a U.S. dictatorship. And there's all this, family drama and legal drama kind of woven in. And given your interest in dystopian fiction, I thought this might appeal to you.
It's checking all the boxes already. What else is catching your eye?
So the Berlinale, they had record-breaking ticket sales this year, which is great news for the film industry.
Yeah, totally.
And on a later note, David Beckham was at MIP London teasing his wife Victoria's upcoming Netflix documentary.
What?
And he was really highlighting her wit and her work ethic, suggesting that, the documentary is going to kind of reveal a side of her that the public hasn't seen before.
That's awesome. Okay, let's move on to new projects.
Yeah.
You sent over a ton of really exciting news here, so let's just get right into it.
Let's do it.
Okay, first up, Season 2 of Poker Face is premiering on Peacock this spring.
I'm excited about that.
And then A24 is developing a live-action Barney movie.
Oh, wow.
But there's a twist.
Okay, there's always a twist with A24, though.
Exactly. It's going to be adult-oriented and surreal, and it was written by Ayo Edebiri.
Oh, interesting.
So remember how we were just talking about A24 and taking risks and not being afraid to appeal to a niche audience?
Mm-hmm.
This is a perfect example.
Absolutely.
Now we're getting to the good stuff.
I love seeing what's in development.
Me too. Okay, Amazon MGM Studios is adapting I.N.M. Banks' sci-fi novel, Consider Phlebas, for television.
Okay.
And it's the first book in his Culture series, known for this complex world building and philosophical themes.
Right.
So this could be huge.
If they do it right.
If they do it right, yeah. Okay, and on a later note, the Australian docu-soap, $1 Billion Playground, has been pre-bought by broadcasters in the UK, Canada, New Zealand, and the Netherlands. So clearly there's an appetite for this kind of escapist content, right?
There really is. It seems like viewers all over the world, they're just fascinated by the lives of the rich and famous, especially in this realm of luxury hospitality. And speaking of new technologies, DO, which is a biometric creative insight platform, just launched out of private beta. And they are using facial coding and biometrics to measure emotional responses to films, TV shows, and even video games.
Wait, so they can see how people are reacting to a movie in real time?
Exactly. It's like having a window into the audience's mind.
That's wild.
I know, right? Think about the implications for storytelling, for marketing, even for just green-lighting decisions.
Yeah.
It could really be, I think, a game changer.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already, but before we move on, I'm just curious, what are your initial impressions of the media landscape based on what we've discussed so far? What themes or what trends are you seeing kind of jumping out at you?
I mean, one thing that's really clear is that the lines between traditional media and technology, they're blurring more than ever.
Yeah.
We've got AI being used to make films, biometric data shaping how stories are told, and even lifestyle brands like Revelist partnering with studios. It's really fascinating to see how all these different worlds are colliding.
Right, right. And then, of course, we can't forget this whole battle for viewers. I mean, it seems like every company out there is trying to launch their own streaming service.
It's true.
And you even flagged this story about Fox. Fox is jumping back into the game.
They are.
And I thought they already had, didn't they have a couple streaming platforms already?
They do.
So what's going on with that?
So this one seems to be a little different. Their CFO emphasized that they're not trying to go after Netflix subscribers or Disney Plus subscribers.
Okay.
They're actually targeting those 50 million U.S. households who haven't jumped on the streaming bandwagon yet.
Huh.
So it suggests maybe a focus on affordability, accessibility, maybe with a mix of ad-supported and subscription tiers.
So they're going after a whole new audience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a very different approach.
Yeah, it's a very different approach.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you also pointed out that BBC Studios is looking to expand globally.
By acquiring production companies outside the UK, particularly in the reality and factual entertainment space.
Exactly. They're really tapping into that global demand for unscripted content.
I mean, everyone loves a good reality show, right?
Right, exactly. But back in the UK, there's actually a pushback against the government's proposed AI regulations.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the public service broadcasters and independent production companies, they're worried about how these regulations might actually impact their work.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see how that's going to play out.
I mean, it's understandable that they're concerned about, protecting their intellectual property in this whole new age of AI-generated content.
Absolutely.
But what are they specifically advocating for?
Well, they really want to see these stronger safeguards put in place to ensure that creators are fairly compensated when their work is used by AI.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a really complex issue with
Totally.
no easy answers.
Let's move on to some good news for fans of Unforgotten. It's been renewed for a 7th season.
That's fantastic.
And Dark Winds has been renewed for a 4th season on AMC Networks. Now, I know you're a fan of Tony Hillerman's novels.
Huge fan.
So you must be pretty excited about this.
I am. I think it's just great to see, these really well-crafted crime dramas continuing to captivate audiences.
Yeah, for sure. But, sadly, not all shows are so lucky. ITV canceled the biopic drama Fash, which was going to tell the story of the Fasciano brothers, Justin and John.
Yeah, that's a shame.
It is, because it would have been such a timely and important story, addressing issues of racism, homophobia, and football.
Absolutely.
But I guess not every project gets to, see the light of day.
It's true. It's true.
Okay. On a brighter note, we've got a whole bunch of casting announcements and new projects to discuss.
Okay, let's hear them.
Let's start with Drew Starkey from Outer Banks. He is joining the cast of Apple TV Plus's limited series Lucky, starring Anya Taylor-Joy and Reese Witherspoon.
That's a seriously impressive cast.
Right. And speaking of star power, Amazon MGM Studios has added Ismael Cruz Cordova, Brady Wagner, and Michael Abbott Jr. to its adaptation of Colleen Hoover's Verity,
Okay.
with Michael Showalter directing. This project has all the makings of a hit.
It does. It does.
Okay. And for fans of country music, Keith Urban is going to headline a new CBS music competition series called The Road.
Okay.
And he'll be traveling through Texas, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, searching for emerging artists to be his opening acts.
Wow, what a great opportunity for those up-and-coming musicians. Talk about a dream mentorship.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of exciting collaborations, A24 is teaming up with Channel 4 for a flat-share comedy series called It Gets Worse, created by and starring comedian Leo Reich.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm curious to see what A24 brings to the world of television comedy.
Right.
They always seem to find such fresh talent and unique perspectives. And speaking of pushing boundaries, Trace Ellis Ross is starring in an indie psychological drama called Blow the Horn, directed by Nacho Arenas. It's an adaptation of an acclaimed Argentinian play about 3 couples in group therapy forced to confront their issues when the therapist doesn't show up.
That sounds intense.
Yeah, a little bit.
And Katie Cassidy is starring in a psychological thriller called Nanny Cam, where she plays a new mother struggling with her mental health and trying to protect her baby from what she believes is a demonic force.
Ooh, I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
And for fans of Reacher, the spin-off series, now officially titled Neegly, is moving forward with 5 new series regulars. It'll follow her as a private investigator in Chicago, seeking justice for a friend's suspicious death.
Nice.
I'm adding that to my watch list.
Me too.
This is exciting. John C. McGinley is reuniting with Scrubs creator Bill Lawrence for a new HBO comedy series starring Steve Carell.
That's a dream team.
I know. Can't wait to see what they come up with. And comedian Nate Bargatze is making his feature film acting debut in a TriStar Pictures comedy called The Breadwinner, directed by Eric Apple.
Oh, I love Nate Bargatze's stand-up. His observational humor is just, it's so relatable.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to see how he does in a movie.
Agreed. Speaking of movies, Teresa Palmer is joining Russell Crowe in an action thriller called Bear Country, which is currently filming in Australia.
Okay, what's the premise?
It follows Crowe as an aging club owner whose retirement plans are disrupted when he's robbed, leading him on a quest for revenge.
Sounds like classic Crow.
Right. And for fans of rock and roll royalty, Ozzy Osbourne is getting his own documentary on Paramount Plus titled Ozzy Osbourne, No Escape from Now.
Oh, wow.
It'll delve into his health challenges and ongoing battle with Parkinson's disease.
Right.
It's sure to be both moving and inspiring.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that the lines are blurring between genres and formats. This next one is a perfect example of that. Akiva Goldsman, who's known for his work on the Star Trek universe, is reimagining 3 Irwin Allen TV series for legendary television.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Get ready for new takes on Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Land of the Giants, and The Time Tunnel.
Wow. With all these new projects and adaptations, it seems like nostalgia is a big trend in the industry right now.
Totally. What do you think?
I think there's definitely something comforting about revisiting those familiar stories and characters, especially in times that feel uncertain.
Yeah.
But it's not just about rehashing the past, you know? It's about finding new ways to connect with those stories and make them relevant for today's audiences.
Yeah, make them fresh.
Exactly.
Okay. Speaking of connecting with audiences, Cinema Guild just acquired the U.S. distribution rights to Hong Sang-soo's latest film, What Does That Nature Say to You? It premiered at the Berlinale, received critical acclaim for its nuanced exploration of human relationships.
Nice.
And in a move that really highlights this whole convergence of entertainment and lifestyle brands, Revelist Inc., known for its adventure and outdoor gear, is partnering with Sierra Pictures for exclusive entertainment collaborations.
Interesting.
So we could see Fox backpacks and Camelback water bottles featured in upcoming films.
That's pretty cool. It's an interesting way for brands to reach a wider audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
Revelist gets to tap into the storytelling power of film and television, while Sierra Pictures gains access to a built-in audience of outdoor enthusiasts.
Makes sense.
You also mentioned that the Irish thriller series, Smother, is getting its first international adaptation.
Yeah. BBC Studios has licensed the format to Slovakia. It's a real testament to the universal appeal of stories centered around family secrets and suspense.
And West End Films is acquiring a number of back catalog titles, including Brady Corbett's The Childhood of a Leader.
It's a smart strategy, you know. They can capitalize on that enduring appeal of critically acclaimed films.
Yeah.
Reach a wider audience.
Yeah. And we've got some news about Angela Jennings, the president of McGillivray Entertainment Media. She's leaving to start a new venture focused on scripted content.
Oh, okay.
That's a significant shift because Mum is primarily known for its unscripted programming.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what Jennings does in the scripted space.
Absolutely.
And in a major deal that could reshape the Nordic media landscape, Schibsted Media is acquiring TV4 Sweden and MTV Finland from Telia Company.
Wow. This acquisition gives Schibsted a much larger presence in the television and streaming markets.
Yeah.
It's a clear sign of their ambition to kind of dominate the region.
Yeah.
They're definitely a company to watch.
We talked earlier about the success of films from smaller countries finding international audiences. And you highlighted Sandbag Dam, a Croatian film about forbidden love, set in this flood-threatened village. It secured distribution deals in the U.S. and Europe after premiering at the Berlinale.
Yeah, it just proves that powerful storytelling, it can transcend borders and resonate with people from all walks of life. The themes of love, loss, resilience, I mean, they're universal.
Totally. And the Australian docusoap Billion Dollar Playground continues to be a hit with international buyers.
It does. The BBC in the UK, Chorus Entertainment in Canada, Bravo in New Zealand, and Talpa TV in the Netherlands have all pre-bought the series.
I mean, it seems like everyone wants a glimpse into the world of luxury hotels and resorts.
They do. And Nelonen Media in Finland is adapting the Norwegian reality competition format, The Box, for Finnish audiences.
It's interesting to see how these formats kind of travel and are tailored to different cultures.
It is. It shows that certain themes and entertainment structures, they really do have a global appeal.
Mm-hmm. Keyshit International is partnering with Hearst Networks, Warner Bros. Discovery, and Polsat for Hitler's Treasure Hunters.
Oh, wow.
A new investigative docuseries. It
Yeah.
sounds like a fascinating project that will blend history, mystery, and adventure.
I'll have to check that one out.
And there's good news for fans of Bluey. TV Tokyo has acquired the rights to broadcast the show across 6 networks in Japan.
Oh, it's heartwarming to see this charming Australian preschool series reaching children all over the world.
Totally. And finally, Fremantle has picked up the international distribution rights for House of Secrets, a new reality competition inspired by the French crime thriller series All Are Simple.
That's an intriguing concept, blurring the lines between reality TV and fictional storytelling. I'm curious to see how they pull it off.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from legal battles and executive shakeups to innovative technologies and a multitude of new projects.
Yeah.
The media landscape is constantly evolving.
It is.
What stands out to you the most from all that we've discussed?
Yeah, it really has been. I mean, if I had to pick just one thing that's really standing out to me, it's just the sheer amount of experimentation that's happening across the industry. I mean, from these genre-bending projects to these new technologies that are completely reshaping how stories are being told, it feels like everyone's trying to figure out what the future of entertainment is going to look like.
You're right. And it's not just about finding new ways to tell stories. It's also about finding new audiences.
Right.
We were talking about A24's success with niche communities and BBC Studios going global with their content.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a trend that's going to continue?
I think absolutely the days of one-size-fits-all entertainment are over.
Yeah.
Audiences are just way more fragmented than they used to be with very specific tastes and interests.
Right.
And as platforms and technology evolve, it's becoming so much easier for studios and creators to really target those specific groups.
Yeah. So what does that mean for the average viewer? Is there a risk of us feeling overwhelmed by all the choice?
I mean, it's a valid concern,
Yeah.
but I also think it means there's something out there for everyone. You don't have to settle for what's being force-fed to you by the major networks.
Right.
You can really curate your own viewing experience,
Yeah.
finding content that really aligns with your own interests and your values.
It's kind of empowering in a way, but it also puts more pressure on us as viewers, I think, to be discerning, to filter through all the noise and find what's truly worth our time.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's no longer about passive consumption. It's about active engagement.
Right. Okay, before we wrap up, there's one more story I kind of want to touch on.
Yeah.
You flagged this Croatian film, Sandbag Dam,
Oh, yeah.
that secured distribution deals in the U.S. and Europe after premiering at the Berlinale.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a love story set in this flood-threatened village. What drew you to this particular film?
I was just so struck by its really universal themes.
No?
It's a story about love and loss and resilience in the face of adversity. Something that I think can really resonate with audiences anywhere in the world.
Totally.
And I think it also highlights this increasing visibility of films from these smaller countries on the global stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reminder that great storytelling can really come from anywhere.
It's a beautiful thought to end on. So we've explored the legal battles, we've celebrated the triumphs, and we've pondered the future of the media landscape.
We have.
We've even touched on some philosophical questions along the way.
What a journey.
It has been. It's been a pleasure diving into these sources with you. I always learn something new from these conversations.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Keeping our minds open to new ideas, exploring different perspectives, and engaging with the stories that shape our world. So to our listener, we hope you found this deep dive insightful and thought-provoking. And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those recommendations coming.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, hasn't it?
It really has. I mean, if I had to pick one thing that really sticks out, it's just the amount of experimentation happening all across the industry.
Yeah.
From, like we said, these genre-bending projects to these new technologies that are completely reshaping how stories are even getting told. It just seems like everyone's trying to figure out what the future of entertainment is going to look like. And
Totally. And it's not just about finding new ways to tell stories. It's about, like you said, finding new audiences.
exactly.
We've talked about A24 and their success with these niche communities, BBC going global.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a trend that's going to continue?
I think absolutely. I mean, I think the days of like one size fits all entertainment are over.
Yeah.
Audiences are more fragmented than ever. They have these very specific tastes and interests.
Right.
And as these platforms and technology evolve, it's becoming so much easier for studios and creators to really, really target those specific groups.
So for the average viewer, what does that mean? I mean, is there a risk of us feeling overwhelmed by all the choices?
I mean, it's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But I also think it means that there's truly something out there for everyone.
Right.
Like, you don't have to just settle for what's being force-fed to you by these big major networks anymore.
Right.
You can really curate your own viewing experience, finding content that really, truly aligns with your interests and your values.
Yeah. It's kind of empowering in a way.
Yeah.
But it also puts a lot more pressure on us as viewers, I think, to be like discerning.
Right.
To filter through all the noise.
It's true.
And find what's really worth our time.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's not about passive consumption anymore. It's about active engagement.
Okay, before we wrap up, there's one more story I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
You flagged this Croatian film, Sandbag Dam.
Oh, yeah.
That secured distribution deals in the U.S. and Europe after premiering at the Berlinale.
Mm-hmm.
It's a love story that takes place in this flood-threatened village.
Yeah.
What was it about this film that drew you to it?
I was really struck by the universal themes in it.
Oh.
It's a story about love, loss, and resilience
Right.
in the face of adversity and, something that I think can resonate with audiences literally anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And I think it also highlights this increasing visibility of films from smaller countries on this global stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's a reminder that great storytelling can come from anywhere.
It's a beautiful thought to end on. So we've explored legal battles, we've celebrated the triumphs, we've pondered the future of media.
We have.
We've even gotten into some pretty philosophical questions.
We did.
What a ride.
It really has been. It was a pleasure diving into all of this with you. I always learn something new from these conversations.
That's what it's all about, right?
It is.
Keeping our minds open to new ideas, exploring different perspectives, engaging with these stories that shape our world.
I love it.
So to our listener, we hope you found this deep dive insightful and thought-provoking. And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those recommendations coming.